the same exercise. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, very good. My name is Dolores Kroll, and I have the pleasure of serving as DeKalb CEO Michael Thurman's Special Projects Manager. Been working on SPLOST since the beginning in DeKalb. Before we get started, we want to do a few housekeeping notes. We'll have 3 ways to submit your questions tonight. For those of you here in person, we have cards to write down your questions. They'll be collected throughout tonight's meeting and addressed during the Q&A session. If you're watching us live on YouTube, you can submit your question by way of the YouTube chat box. Most of you will easily see the chat box. It depends on your browser. If not, you can always click on the name at the meeting to open it up. And we'll get to as many of these as we can during the meeting, many of these questions. If we receive more questions than we have time for tonight, you can also email inquiries regarding SPLOST to the SPLOST email, splost@dekalbcountyga.gov, or call and ask your question by way of voicemail. And all this information is on the DeKalb County website. And finally, if you need to know anything really about SPLOST, you can go to our website, dekalbsplost.com. So tonight we're going to do 2 things. We'll do an overview, a short overview of what we were able to accomplish as a county for SPLOST I. And then we'll share with you where we are in the process pending the referendum vote on SPLOST II. So, I'm hitting it? Is that wrong? Okay. This is our vision statement. It was adopted by the CEO and the Board of Commissioners in 2017 when the SPLOST bill was just passed. And it basically says that the DeKalb County Special Local Option Sales Tax will support countywide capital outlay improvements that promote a high quality of life for all residents. The vision statement was adopted after a series of 8 vision statement meetings we had. We took 2 approaches. The first thing we did was we gathered data that had been collected from a previous SPLOST commission that unfortunately were unsuccessful in getting the 2016 version passed. So we were able to take some of the knowledge, the survey, and the feedback from those sessions. And we also had the 9 sessions. They were open to the public at the Maloof Auditorium. And everyone gave feedback, including commissioners and residents, on what their vision for SPLOST was. So that's where the vision statement came from. So now I want you to watch this SPLOST overview. It'll just kind of give you up to date on where we are. Mr. Senior.
Good evening. Before we move, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to also recognize we have 2 county commissioners who are here, Commissioner Ted Terry and Commissioner Michelle Long Spears. Where is she? Stand up. Thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate it. We have several DeKalb County employees who are here, our executive team. Our director, Ms. Allison, stand up. Director of Libraries is here. T.J. Siegler, our budget director, is here. Yeah, give him a big hand because he writes all the checks. He's the guy. He's the guy. Who am I missing? Do I see other? Oh, where's the county attorney? I know I got a lawyer. I can't go anywhere without a lawyer. There you go. Give one of my county attorneys a hand. Great, great, great. And of course, this is Dolores Kroll you just met. You'll meet Chris. He's with Atlas. They're the administrative agents overseeing the he and Ernest. Y'all stand up. Give them a hand. These are the guys who actually go out and get the work done. So thank you so much for being here. We're excited. DCTV is here. Raise your hand, DCTV. And am I missing anyone?
Yes. Sharon.
Sharon Baker, who is the CEO's representative. Y'all know I don't have my glasses on. I can only see about 3 feet in front of me, so you have to kind of do. Problem my father had when he was up in age, and he wanted to get his license renewed. He asked me to take him to the DMV to get his license renewed. And I said, okay, Dad, you're 84 years old, so don't say anything. I'll take care of it. Son's attorney. So the time I walk in the door, this big sergeant there, Georgia State Patrol, he said, son, let me tell you something. Say, I can't see and I can't hear. I just thank God I can still drive. So give me my license. So anyway, thank y'all so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. You can roll.
Hello, I'm DeKalb County CEO Michael Thurman. Citizens of DeKalb County voted in 2017 to fund the county's first ever SPLOST, a special purpose local option sales tax. The program is expected to generate more than $388 million through a 1-cent sales tax that is earmarked for capital projects and distributed among 4 categories: transportation, public safety, parks and recreation and community facilities. Let's take a closer look at how these funds are being used to improve our community.
Overall, SPLOST is expected to generate more than $600 million for DeKalb County and its cities. Of the county's share of more than $388 million SPLOST dollars, $244 million are slated to support transportation projects and improve high-priority corridors, including funding for more than $11 million to rebuild the Cedar Grove Bridge over the Norfolk Southern Railroad to help restore this vital artery. A 2.2-mile extension of the Michelle Obama Trail to move closer to connecting with the South River Multi-Use Trail and ultimately the Atlanta Beltline. Resurfacing more than 160 miles of road to date, with nearly another 100 miles under construction and 26 miles in advertisement to reach an overall goal of 300 miles throughout the entire county. Completing missing sidewalk segments throughout the county to improve access to schools, community facilities, and bus stops. SPLOST funding is also supporting traffic and safety improvements in coordination with a major water line replacement and installing mini roundabouts at several intersections to reduce excessive speeding. SPLOST will help fund $87 million for public safety projects, including enhancements benefiting DeKalb's fire rescue and police departments. Some of those projects are the first of 5 new fire stations planned for DeKalb County, incorporating state-of-the-art health and safety features and community rooms. Also, roof replacements and alarm system upgrades throughout many of the 26 active fire stations in DeKalb. 6 new classroom buildings at the DeKalb County Fire Rescue Academy, and more than $9 million for new police cars, rapid response fire vehicles, and fire radio systems. In the capital outlay category, SPLOST has allocated $57 million for both parks and recreation and community facilities. $2.5 million of SPLOST funds, along with a $1.5 million contribution from the Atlanta Braves Foundation, have been used to support renovated baseball fields featuring artificial turf. And more than $2 million to resurface tennis and basketball courts, including 17 courts at the Mason Mill Tennis Center. $20 million SPLOST dollars have been allocated for general repairs at community facilities, including significant upgrades and repairs at the Lew Walker and Warren Street Senior Centers. More than $16 million for DeKalb County Courthouse repairs and improvements. A new roof for the historic Callenwald Fine Arts Center. And starting reconstruction of the N.H. Scott Pool.
SPLOST is making a tangible impact on the lives of DeKalb County residents. Thank you for this opportunity to showcase your pennies at work.
That's great. That was applause with no prompting or nothing. Very impressive. Thank you. So now we're going to move on and do a quick overview of SPLOST I. If you remember in 2017, when you voted for SPLOST I, there were restrictions. 85% for transportation and public safety, and 15% for parks and capital repairs. And those are the 4 areas that you just saw in the video that were covered. You'll soon see that upon SPLOST II, the categories and the restrictions that are there have been removed. And so we will have in DeKalb now a grown-up SPLOST. If you recall, when we had the first SPLOST, first of all, we had never had a SPLOST. We were the only large metro area county in Georgia that did not have a SPLOST. And we know for certain, if you use Gwinnett as an example, that they've had a SPLOST since the late 80s. And I believe their number of tax collections have been over $2 billion at least. And you can see some of the things and the differences in their infrastructure, if you would, and the benefits of having a SPLOST for roads, public safety, and all that. So the goal for SPLOST II this year at the legislature was to have a full-grown SPLOST, take the training wheels off of DeKalb, and have a SPLOST like everyone else has. And here is just a word that we stole from the CEO about the historical significance of this SPLOST. And when we say HB 431, we're talking about SPLOST II. The passage of HB 431 is a milestone in the political history of DeKalb County. It is irrefutable proof that when we work together across political boundaries, there is no goal that cannot be achieved or accomplished. Our exemplary track record in implementing SPLOST I will serve as a foundation and impetus of the campaign that will seek voter approval of the SPLOST II referendum on November 7, 2023. Okay, and this is what I referenced in the earlier slide. On Wednesday, Governor Brian Kemp, May 3rd, 2023, Governor Brian Kemp signed House Bill 431, which authorizes DeKalb County to hold a SPLOST II referendum on November 7th. And these next bullets are just highlighting and emphasizing for you the type of work that was required to get us to this point for SPLOST II. The legislation would not have been a success without the leadership that we had. Senator Kim Jackson on the Senate side, and State Representative and Chair Carla Drenner, who actually introduced the bill and it was critical in getting it passed for us. The legislation earned overwhelming bipartisan support from the state representatives by passing 174 to 0, which, as I said in other meetings, I have been working in the Georgia legislature for over 20 years, and I cannot remember a time lobbying for any bill that got that kind of number. 174 to 0 is kind of unprecedented. And 48 to 4 margins, and I guarantee you the 4 were probably absent. DeKalb County commissioners and mayors also signed letters of support, and that was critical too, because we had to influence decision makers that we knew that our folks at our local level were supporting the bill. And the CEO says all the time that SPLOST is not for unincorporated, it's for all of DeKalb and for all the citizens. That's why each of the 12 cities all get a say. So what we did was we went to the DeKalb Municipal Association meeting, met with the executive team. They helped us draft a letter, and we also went to our Board of Commissioners, and they signed a letter. And those were presented to not only our folks in leadership, but the other people who had to make those decisions, whether our bill got even a hearing or got out of committee. People need to know that the people back home support you. And then the last bullet is referring to the folks that work with me on our governmental affairs team. And we had a great team. We had our folks from the staff, we had Denton's, and then we had Paramount. So now we can talk about the process for determining what happens with SPLOST II. If you recall, we talked about originally, we only had 2 categories, transportation and public safety, and then capital outlay was 15%. With this new bill, and you can go ahead and pass out the handouts if you would, please, so people can see those. Thank you. You'll see in that legislation, House Bill 431, that the restrictions that were put in are crossed out now. So the legislation that you'll be voting for in November will not have any restrictions. So what we wanted to do was look at, okay, how do we refine this process? Because now we have a different set of opportunities. We're not just limited with those 2 categories. So the first step 1 is DeKalb County will perform a detailed review of the legislation. And our attorneys, our county attorney and her staff, they are currently doing that now. Step 2, county staff, industry professionals, such as our own Chris Kingsbury with the Atlas team, program management, they'll complete a capital needs assessment. And the critical word here is needs. Needs. Remember, we're a county that went through decades without any real funds to support infrastructure. So now what we're looking at is what work has been done based on worst first, and we're going to continue that. Because remember, we hadn't spent any money on infrastructure ever really in DeKalb. I think maybe a 15 million, is that what they had maybe? If they had that much. Right, it was a small amount, but the point is that we started slow, and we're going to continue on the path looking at what needs to be done first. Step 3 is a comparison of the completed assessment with unrestricted categories, and projected SPLOST II revenues will be reviewed. Step 4, the CEO and administration will schedule community meetings across the county and solicit input. That's where we are tonight. This is our 4th meeting. We have one final one in Dunwoody. And the CEO wanted to make sure that we had meetings in all parts of the county, whether they were incorporated or unincorporated. Step 5, the administration will provide its results of the assessment and the community input, like input that you'll give us tonight, and we'll put a package together, but that still has to be proposed and approved by the Board of Commissioners. And as the CEO tells us, it's very little he can do without the support of the Board of Commissioners. So they will have your input, your individual commissioners, our professional input, and they'll all be able to make informed decisions. And then step 6, the final list of categories will be incorporated into the SPLOST II referendum, and that's what you'll go and vote on in November. We're good? All right, I see heads nodding, so that means we're good. Now I want to bring up, and I'm embarrassed because we just spoke. Come up and introduce yourself. But
it's because I stay in the background.
Yes. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Suzanne Success Osborne. I am a senior county attorney in the DeKalb County Law Department. And I think I'm here to go over the list of categories that are now available. As you can see, there are 14 categories that are not just limited to the 8515 that we had previously. There's roads, streets, bridges, sidewalks, and bike paths. Then we have public safety and airport facilities and related capital equipment. And then there are qualified repairs to existing capital outlay projects. And there's an asterisk because there are certain requirements that the statute has for any type of repairs, and so we would have to look at those on a case-by-case basis to make sure that it complies with what the statute requires. And then there is cultural, recreational, and historic facilities, courthouse, administrative building, civic center, correctional detention facilities, library, coliseum, solid waste and recovered materials processing facilities. There's stormwater. There is capital projects by county authority operated in conjunction with one or more cities, water and sewer projects, retirement of general obligation debt, voting capital equipment, transportation facilities for people or goods, including railroads and mass transit. There's qualified hospital facilities, and there again it's qualified, so we would have to look at the details of the proposed project. And then any capital outlay project owned, operated, or administered by the state within DeKalb County. And then there's broad general authorization for cities and counties and the county to fund outlay projects. And having received some comments in past meetings, I came with the definition of what a capital outlay project is, since a lot of these categories involve that. And so capital outlay project means major permanent or long-lived improvements or betterments, such as land and structures, such as would be properly chargeable to a capital asset account, and as distinguished from current expenditures and ordinary maintenance expenses. So it's a little technical, but those are the categories, and that's what a capital outlay project is. Okay.
So as you can see from this exhaustive list, it's a lot different than having two categories. A lot different. And again, when the projects are qualified, they'll be based on needs. So now we'll turn it over. Okay, we'll turn it over to our budget director, Mr. T.J. Siegler. He's going to talk to you about EHOST.
Thank you, Dolores. Good evening. So back in 2017, when the voters approved the SPLOST referendum, there was a second question on that same ballot that was related to the EHOST, which stands for the Equalized Homestead Option Sales Tax. And so the way the ballot questions were worded, you would have to approve both of them in order for them to go into effect. In essence, those two taxes replace what used to be called the HOST, or the Homestead Option Sales Tax, which was a 1-penny tax that 80% was used for property tax relief and 20% could be used for capital projects. So unlike HOST, though, the EHOST is 100% dedicated to property tax relief. So the proceeds that come in from this 1-cent sales tax are then used to provide tax credits on property tax bills for homeowners. Anyone that has a homestead exemption within DeKalb County is qualified for the EHOST tax credits. All right, and when you get your tax bills, it should be, I think next month is when they'll be sent out, the first installment. If you look on your bill, there will be a column that's headed EHOST credit, and that's where you'll be able to see how much you're saving on your property taxes due to the EHOST sales tax. And from 2018, when EHOST started through the end of last year, EHOST has saved DeKalb homeowners over $591 million on their property tax bills. And actually yesterday, the BOC approved the millage rates for 2023, and we can say now that the tax savings this year will be $147 million. So that brings the total up to $738 million for not quite 6 years. All right, $738 million. Oh, for this year, it's $147 million in property tax savings. I thought you wanted the bigger number. I'm sorry? This year being 23. All right, and so also on, well, let me mention too that the new legislation for SPLOST II did not change any of the provisions of the EHOST statute. So there would be no changes to EHOST associated with SPLOST II. And then the links here are to DeKalb County's SPLOST website that has information about EHOST, as well as to the tax commissioner's website for information about applying for homestead exemptions if you don't have that. Okay, next slide. All right, and this table just shows how much each home value or each home at various price points would save or has saved on EHOST over the last 5 years. So, and this is based on just a typical homestead property. There might be some factors that make it a little bit different for just depending on your specific circumstances. But what you can see is for 2022, if you have a house that's valued at $100,000, you would have saved just under $300. If you were somewhere in the $250 range, that'd be about $850 saved on your property tax bills. Going up to $500,000, it's about $1,800. $750, you're at $2,700, and then at $1 million, your savings would be.
Not these certain projects meet their rigorous testing. Number 4 is, can SPLOST be used for environmental issues and/or renewable energy sources for residents? I hate to sound like a broken record, but that's all part of the vetting process. And if that comes out, then when we come up with the final analysis and present it to the BOC, we'll know then.
And I will follow up on the South River. The most important thing that we're doing now is reducing sanitary sewer overflows throughout DeKalb County, particularly in the Snapfinger Basin. I am so proud to report that in 2022, DeKalb County reduced the volume of sewer spills by 65%. And we did it because we are investing nearly $100 million a year in improving and replacing a system that had been neglected for decades. And you may have noticed the heavy rains we've had over the last few days. When I started this job, I didn't sleep during the rains. I just kind of stayed up. There was not a major sewer spill anywhere in DeKalb County during the last 3 or 4 weeks. Isn't that amazing? Now, I got my fingers crossed because I get a text message on the way home, but up until now, it just did not happen, and that's because of David Hayes and the people in Watershed, Maria Hauser just doing a great job of us taking care of this vital system. So thank you for the question, though.
That reminds me, Mr. CEO, whenever it would rain, the next morning we would come in and everybody would be like, it rained last night. That was part of the whole agenda, if you would, so those were interesting times. There were 2 other questions on this other card. The person that asked about why are stormwater and water sewer projects on the category list? And I think Chris answered that. And this second part was same with transportation. I think this says on rail lines like MARTA. So SPLOST dollars do not cover that. Airport facilities. Can't people with private planes afford this? Not sure if that's a question or a statement. And finally, can't the, I don't know what this word is, take away any of its projects? Oh, can the state, say, right, the state has a surplus. Not sure what the question is.
I got the answer.
Okay.
Right. So what SPLOST law allows, and this is not something DeKalb I think has ever done, but it's very common in more rural counties, a state authority, say Georgia Ports, might have a facility, and one of the local governments may help. Hall County is actually doing this, may help with infrastructure to support the growth of that state port. And the question about the state surplus, current SPLOST has a category for county SPLOST dollars being the match for state and federal projects. So it's very conceivable, and we have many projects. Larry Kaiser, Metro South CID, current SPLOST, Larry CID got a grant from the State Road and Tollway Authority for a roundabout, a road safety improvement, and they required a 20% match. The SPLOST program is going to make that match up to allow that improvement. So that's where SPLOST helps leverage those state and federal dollars.
Okay, next question is, will code enforcement be funded or increase funding for this department with SPLOST? No. No. I think there was a hidden message in that one. Here's the next one. Why is, or maybe not so hidden, huh? Why is the library listed with courthouse? There's too many important things listed there for the library to be noticed. It should be listed with cultural, recreational, and historic facilities. I can tell you that one of the...
Well, actually, Allison, what was
yeah,
the
she's
question?
in here. I was just going to mention
No, I'm just kidding. Allison didn't ask that question.
Yeah. And we did, if you recall when we were talking about the different steps, we've already had departments submit, you know, the things that they need for their individual departments. And Allison has already submitted that, so she's got your back, whoever requested that.
And Allison, talk to us a little bit about the projects already completed under SPLOST I.
So the library, we didn't get a whole lot from SPLOST I, but we did get a roof replacement at the Flat Shoals Library and the new dumbwaiter at Decatur, and we are on time, hopefully before the end of the year, to start restroom renovations at 8 different libraries.
It's about $1 million.
So a little over about $1.4 million in restroom renovations.
Okay.
This is another, we might not have mentioned this. The current SPLOST had a very unique restriction that no other county in Georgia had, the CEO alluded to. The 85-15, when you get down into the weeds, 85% of the money goes to transportation and public safety with no restrictions. 15% could be spent on facilities, and that's where libraries, senior centers, health centers, parks, with the caveat, no new construction, capital repair only. So we're repairing restrooms, we're putting new roofs, we're replacing HVAC systems, long-term improvements to athletic fields. But it has to be, as the county attorney representative said, a capital improvement, and generally, in layman's terms, that's 10 plus years. So we can only, the current SPLOST, make long-term needed repairs. We couldn't build anything new.
And another thing to add to that is the way the SPLOST law works is if we allocate the money for a project, it has to be completed. We have to spend the money on that project. So it's not a rollover scenario. And the other piece that I always like to bring up for our SPLOST, the only one in Georgia of its kind, is that we do have exemptions in our SPLOST for prescription drugs and unprepared foods. We're the only county that has that in our SPLOST, which makes us unique. The CEO, I can tell you, lobbied hard for that just because of the concern for people that are on fixed incomes, lower socioeconomic status. That not having to pay that tax means something. May not to those of us in the room who probably work every day or whatever, but there is a segment that appreciates that. And is this a new one? Okay. All right. How do you get an item on the list? You refer to getting this How do you get an item on the list? I think the best way for you to do it is, there's two things that we're doing now. We're capturing all these cards. Right now, of all these meetings, we have over 60 FAQs and comments that we're going to consolidate and make available on the web. The other probably best way is to connect with your commissioners. Talk to them about what you want. Put it in writing, go to their meetings. That would be another way that I would recommend. And if the commissioners that are here have any other suggestions, that's fine. Okay. You referenced getting the animal shelter on the list. How does that happen? Just the way I just mentioned. Okay. Is the SPLOST really not including City of Atlanta in funding these projects? The county is currently paying $300,000 for a path on private Emory University and in the City of Atlanta. I am not familiar with that project, but like the CEO said and I said, we are not paying for projects with DeKalb County SPLOST dollars for the City of Atlanta, period. I know, that wasn't you. That's right, because you have 4 questions. Right? And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that may be the last one. Oh, no, here's another one. Oh, and she has more. Okay. We got one from YouTube. What is the status of the cleanup of the DeKalb water system? I think the CEO had addressed that. I don't know if you want to expand on it, sir.
If the water system is the water distribution system, each year since I've been in office, so it preceded me, DeKalb's water has been tested at the state and federal level, and our water tests as some of the best, cleanest, purest water in the state and in the nation. That has consistently been the case of the water distribution system that's treated at our water distribution plant at Scott Candler. We have one plant that treats the water, and that's Scott Candler, and it's distributed to all of our households, to every citizen in the county, and we've never had an issue with water quality in DeKalb County.
Thank you, sir. This question says, were there any investments made in DeKalb libraries in SPLOST I? I think our Director Allison just answered that question. Okay, Director Allison, did you have a meeting before you got here? Because this is another library question. What can we do to make library projects a priority? Everybody's request is a priority. And again, it'll be based on needs. Worst first is how we did the streets. I don't know if there's a particular formula that'll be used for this, but it's on the list. And can SPLOST II be used to do planning, engineering, and construction of the Peachtree Creek Greenway, a multi-use trail in unincorporated DeKalb? Yes. See how quick that was? I got that? Okay. How will you add extra weight to projects that impact residents' lives in multiple ways? For example, the DeKalb County Public Library enhances education, connects people to community resources, supports senior brain health, and more. Thank you, Allison. That was your... But seriously, we do take all of the requests seriously, and as I said, I've got a stack of these from the 4th meeting, and you'll all be able to see online very shortly what the questions were and what categories, they could potentially fall in, just as FAQs. The real deal will come when the assessment is done and the Board of Commissioners approves it. Anything else, Mr. CEO?
No, thank you all so much for being here. I want a personal privilege. I am coming to the end of my term, so I get to say stuff that I wouldn't normally say. But no, as it relates to libraries, I love our library system. We got the best library director anywhere in this nation. And if not with SPLOST, and she'll tell you, improving and investing in our library system has been a top priority of this administration. And that's why we were named the best library system in the state of Georgia in 2018. And we're going to continue to invest because it's so important to the quality of life. I can promise you that. I just believe in it. Thank you so much. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Dolores and Mr. CEO, for this great presentation on historical overview of SPLOST I and the plan moving forward for SPLOST II. We would like to continue this conversation in a more intimate setting with your DeKalb County Commissioner, Michelle Long-Spears, and we will be hosting both a virtual meeting on August 8th in the evening and an in-person meeting on August 9th at 6:30 at the North Decatur Presbyterian Church on Medlock Road. So, if you would like to provide your comments and feedback and project list to your commissioner, please join us, either virtually or in person, in that week of August. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and drive home safe.